one game. So what has to be reiterated on offense? We have a great offense. We have a great, dynamic offense. We have great talent. We see the emergence of Tommy Lee Lewis and Marcus Murphy and Daniel Esco to go along with our stable running backs and our wide receiver and Michael Thomas. This offense must work on securing the ball because you're not going to win many games with 4 turnovers. So as we can talk about the offense, I'm going to start with quarterback play. Of course, Drew looked like Drew. I was like, just take Drew on out there. Drew does not have to prove anything. Just give him a few reps. And, that first drive was classic Drew, classic 37-yard bomb pass play to Brandon Cooks, what we've come to expect of Drew. Mark Ingram got a little strip of the ball, or, as Kyle noted, was handling the ball. Looked like he was running with one hand on the ball. I'm sure that'll be straightened out and fixed in the regular season. Mark Ingram, besides the Tampa Bay game last year, he does not fumble a whole lot. So I know that'll be worked out. But overall, as an offense, we got to straighten out the turnovers. In terms of quarterback play after Drew, I thought Gary Grayson was adequate. I know he had the one miscue with Brandon Coleman that was kind of high. And, you can blame that on Grayson throwing it high, but you can also, if it touches your hands, in the words of Frank Jones, you got to try to either come up with it or make sure the defender don't catch it. But overall, I was impressed with how Grayson handled things. And, he had a couple of areas where, he couldn't keep the drives, and the penalties, slowed down or ensnared their drives from continuing. But overall, Gary Grayson's play for me was pretty decent. I don't have a lot of bad things to say about his play, especially after I heard so many of the analysts in New Orleans and everyone just giving him such low remarks. I'm like, hey man, this guy is just in his second season. As long as Drew is healthy and Luke McCown says he's never going to play. So we've got to, give the young man a chance. So for me, Gary Grayson's play, I gave him a B+. I thought that he was calm and cool, collective. He made some plays with his feet. He made the 2-point conversion play and stuff. So I'm just like, you know what? Give the guy a chance, So now, who I was disturbed at his play was Luke McCown. I was not pleased with Luke's play at all for a veteran of 12 to 13 years. He looked kind of rusty to me. And the line did not help because he was playing with a lot of, second, third, fourth stringers. So, it might have been a different story had he been out there with the number ones. But I did not really, really, really care for his play at all in terms of what he did. And I did not understand why Coach Payton did not let at least Gary Grayson play 2 quarters and then bring Luke in since he is a veteran. So I'm going to keep an eye on Luke's play throughout this preseason because I was not very pleased with his play in his first game. And I know that could have been, his preseason first game and that he, would turn around. With him being a veteran of 12 years and 35 years of age, I would have expected Luke to come out not as great as Drew, but come out with, more, soundness or assertiveness or more, preciseness. And that's what I guess after seeing him play against Carolina early last year, I expected of him. And maybe my expectations were just too high since it was the first preseason game. So overall, in terms of the quarterback play, I was pleased, with the play. The 2 turnovers, of course, were, dampers. But overall, with all 3 of them, I think the Saints have a sound situation in those 3 areas in terms of quarterbacking. Your thoughts about the quarterback play, BB?
Well, first of all, Drew Brees came out, and it was only a 3-play series, let's be honest. But for Drew to pick up his head, notice that Cooks is covered by a corner in Coleman, who hasn't really proven himself yet, to see that and just throw a dart and a great throw to Brandon Cooks, just a great job in classic Drew Brees. Like you said, I'm going to touch on what you said about Luke McCown. McCown really didn't have much of a great day, 18 of 27, 143 yards. He had a touchdown, but he also had an interception, and he also had the fumble in the fourth quarter that was recovered and returned for a touchdown. So two huge turnovers for Luke McCown in that game. But the one thing that baffles me a little bit is what you said about analysts and Garrett Grayson. I'm going to take it to another level and say some of the fans and their reactions to the play of Garrett Grayson. I was impressed with Garrett Grayson. Outside of that first throw, which you can blame Grayson for a little bit, it was ill-advised. You can blame Coleman a little bit. It hit him. It hit his hands. You got to catch that football. But after that, it seemed like Grayson kind of got in a groove, got in a rhythm. Michael Thomas certainly helped that. But it seemed like Grayson was able to manage the offense well. Not great, not good, well. And if you're going to sit and critique Garrett Grayson on his performance of 10 of 16 for 133 and the interception, how are you not doing the same for Luke McCown? Because in my opinion, Luke McCown played worse than Garrett Grayson did in that game. I think Grayson gets a B grade for the game. I think outside of that interception and after that interception, Grayson did what he had to for the team to put some points on the board. Remember, he led 2 drives for touchdowns, so 14 or 22 points Garrett Grayson is responsible for in terms of he was the field general on those drives. And McCown threw a touchdown pass to, let me double check, I believe it was Reggie Bell. It was Reggie Bell. He throws a touchdown pass to Reggie Bell, so that's a touchdown for McCown as well. But McCown had a big red zone interception. Given it was a heck of an interception, I'm still trying to figure out how he caught that ball. But McCown has that. McCown also gets stripped of the ball on a sack and is returned for a touchdown. I don't think McCown handled himself and handled the offense as well as Garrett Grayson did. So Saints fans, if you're going to give Garrett Grayson a thumbs down on that preseason game and rat him out a little bit, you got to do the same for the 13-year vet in Luke McCown. Because McCown played worse than Grayson did. So overall, I think the quarterbacks did well. I think Drew played well in the 3 plays that he played. I think Grayson, in my eyes, Grayson impressed more people than maybe we realize. I think Grayson has really taken some strides since last year, and we saw that in the first preseason game. And then McCown played the worst out of the 3 of them. So overall, I'm going to give the quarterbacks a B. Not an awful grade. It's still the preseason. And like you said with McCown, let's give him a little bit of slack, maybe, because he was playing with second, third, sometimes even fourth-string players. But let's really not overlook Garrett Grayson. I think Grayson had a very good first preseason game of his second NFL season.
And I concur with BB. I think as the Who Dat Nation, we have the proclivity to try to look for Drew Brees and these other quarterbacks, and they're not Drew Brees. And I think by having that propensity to look for Drew and these players, you're too hard on some players. I 1,000% agree with BB. There's no way on earth you can say Luke McCown played anywhere near to the level that Garrett Grayson played, especially with the interception that he threw in the red zone, in the end zone, and the sack fumble, which, the offensive line could have caused that, but no way on earth. So if as a Who Dat Nation, you have to be fair in your assessment of these players. There's no way on earth that you can say Luke McCown played better than Garrett Grayson, and I agree that Garrett Grayson, to me, made steps of showing signs of improvement from last year. Yeah. So let's not be unfair in our assessment of Who Dat Nation to these players.
Hey,
now let's jump to
Professor. Can I add something?
God. Is this your show? I thought you was on Wednesday night.
Hey man,
what is it? What is it, Mr. Executive Producer?
Hey, all right. Look, I have to agree with both of you guys. The one thing that concerned me about Luke McCown was some of his decision making, as well as the way he was throwing the ball. Some of the passes he was passing, it just was like, how would you throw the ball so flat when you know you need to get it over to the guy? And that end zone interception, BB, I don't know what he was looking at, and it really caused a lot of concern on my part to say, if you really have to, like you said, fairly assess both of their performances, I thought Garrett Grayson did far much more in his 2 years being in the league than the many years in the league Luke McCown has been. So, but of course, this is just one game, and hopefully on next week in Houston, we'll see how both of these guys perform as well.
Excellent points, Kyle. All I'm going to say, as I said before, the McCowan boys, Josh and Luke, they're journeymen. They've had exception at one season in Chicago with Josh. Luke McCowan shows you why he's been a backup for most of his career, because of a very excellent point that Kyle brings up in terms of his decision making. You cannot be turning over the ball once you get inside of the 35 of your opponent's yard line. You just cannot, because at the end, the way the NFL is now, 1 point to 8 points, these games are being decided by, and those points that are missed. If you look at the Mark Ingram fumble and Luke McCowan turnover, the Saints win this game easily, minus the 2 turnovers. It's not even a close game. This is a game that is probably something like 33 to 17 or 20. So you got to look at all of the facts of that nation. As bad as everybody's feeling. Now, this was a game where the Saints had more yardage and everything. They did really, in a lot of ways, if you take away the scoreboard, they outplayed this team. But this team, what you saw in New England is one of the things where the Saints need to get back to. You did not see turnovers from New England, and you did not see a whole lot of penalties. And remember, it was their first preseason game also. See, that's the other side of the coin. Why are you not seeing the same thing, mistakes on their side? And that's why I say it goes back to coaching, because evidently the message that Bill Belichick is able to convey to first-year players and players that are trying out for the team versus the message that Sean Payton and his staff, there's a glaring difference between the two. And that's the area where Coach Payton and his staff have got to get better. Continuing with the offense, let's go to the running back. Now, the running backs, Mark Ingram had 2 short touchdowns, as BB spoke about earlier. What still is a problem with me with the Saints running back, and I think it may be the line more so than it's the running backs, the Saints are still struggling and having an inability to run the ball. And this has now been a problem for going on now since the 11th season. The inability for this team to run the ball, and we've had great running backs, and we have great, decent running backs in the backfield. So there is something going on with the concepts of what is being taught with this offensive line, and I'll get to that in a minute. In terms of the running backs, I think that Daniel Lesko, with his special team contributions, as well as his ability to, run the ball and what I vision for him, you're not going to be able to cut this man. I also believe that Marcus Murphy was the offensive MVP, or the offense and special team MVP, with his total yardage in terms of contribution, 141 or 146, somewhere in that range, all-purpose yards. You're not going to be able to get Murphy. I know he had a little bobble. He's got to work on his ability to catch. That's why I'm telling BB and Kyle, these problems that the Saints are having with holding on to the ball, these are technique problems that the coaches are not teaching them well. Something they need to either go out after practice and just go out there and work on catching the ball and holding on to the ball, because these, to me, are technique problems that the coaches are teaching them. And whatever message they're conveying is not getting over. So Murphy and Lesko, if they have decent games again this week, it's going to be very difficult, because I think the 2 odd people now is Hightower versus Travaris Cadet. Now, the real problem with the Saints is that the